시작하시면 됩니다.
Okay, good morning, everyone. That's kind of strange not to have student in the classroom. And this quarter, we are going to have recorded lectures due to this coronavirus situation. And yeah, there are going to be some difficulties and new experiences, but please bear with me because it's a new experience for me as well. And the title of the lesson that we are going to cover for 10 weeks from now today is it's a survey on Christianity. We've been doing this survey on Christianity for last 3 quarters. This is the third quarter that we are covering the subject. And on this lesson, we are going to cover the so-called Christian worldview. Christianity as a worldview. And the lesson 1 is titled Worldview is and does. So we are going to try to survey what the worldview basically is. So there are 2 major topics on this lesson as we pursue coming 10 weeks together. First one is the worldview itself. The definition and then understanding the specifics of what the worldview is and what the worldview does. So like today's title, we are going to focus on what the worldview is and also what the worldview does for us. And then second major part of this lesson for coming 10 weeks, probably we'll cover another 5 lessons on this subject is Christian worldview. So there's going to be worldview in general, and then we are going to search and survey what the Christian worldview is about and how Christians view the world. And so before we go into the further instructions, let me briefly introduce myself for those new students who are logging on. I'm sure there are some students who's been to last 2 classes or 3 classes together with me. But those for the new students, my name is Hwang. Let me write that down on the board. This is how I write my name in Chinese, Dr.Suung in Korean. So this is my full name, and I have earned my PhD in the international development from William Carey University a few years ago. So that allows me to teach on these subjects, and I'm not really an expert on the subject of the worldview, but I did many classes on the subject through the so-called cultural anthropology. probably it's new for some of you. The word anthropology, it means the study of human nature or humanity in general. So it studies how we come about. There's a cultural anthropology and some other anthropology, but I learned the cultural anthropology. 화면이 또 안 뜨지? So the cultural anthropology studies the culture, and in this study, one of the major topics is the worldview, which we are going to cover today. So let's go into the lesson, and probably next week I will try to present the content of syllabus, how we are going to grade it, and how what are the assignments are, what the goals are, and those things. And I'm planning to have a quiz, just like we did last quarter. There are going to be 8 quizzes, and then probably there are going to be a couple reports. So please expect to do some homeworks since you guys are not coming to the class in person. But we'll try to communicate through emails and things like that. And the school will send you the materials that you need. So, okay, first topic regarding the worldview. Some of you may probably never heard about the worldview in specific, but I'll try to explain what the definition is, what the concepts are regarding the worldview, the word worldview. So the first thing that we are going to talk about is, what is a worldview? We try to identify and define. Whenever you do these kind of academic words, academic study, in a college level, whether it's a junior college or 4-year college, or even after the college that you may study in graduate, undergraduate, and graduate schools. And the way they do in this scientific field is to define the terms without exactly defining the terms that you're not going to communicate in the same language. So it is key and important for us to be able to communicate with the same definition whenever we are having our academic research or even academic discussion. So any study, any field of study, whether it's sociology or cultural anthropology or theology or some other science, it is always important to define the term and try to understand it. So there are going to be some definitions will be given, and then I'll try to elaborate on some of the examples, and then also I'll try to give a simple working definition for us to use during this class. Which means there are several different definitions regarding the worldview. But basically, what they are trying to say is pretty much similar and this almost same. Okay, first definition. It says a theory of the world used for living in the world. So it is a theory. It has to do with the kind of theory. It's not a practice, but it is rather a theory, what the view is. So it's something in your head or something in your mind, and rather than behavior. So we know that worldview relates to the behavior, but it is not the behavior. The worldview may dominate or control your behavior, but it is not the behavior itself. So it is a theory of the world. See, as you see in the brown letter, it's about the world that you see, or that you experience, the world that you live in. And then it says used for living in that world. So it has to do with the living. So if you have to live, years and years in this world, that you gotta have a certain theory about the world. And people may share the common theory, or people may differ one from another in how they view the world. So not all worldviews are alike. Number two, a mental model of a reality. So it has to do with the reality. So reality is there. The nature, the people, and the society, the nation, government. These are all realities. And your family even, and then food that you eat, and the clothes that you dress up with. These are also included in so-called reality. Reality is what it is there. But the interpretation and perception of that reality may not be the same. So everyone has that mental map or mental model in their head about perceiving or understanding or reasoning that reality. So worldview has to do with how you see and then make a map in your head about the reality. Number three definition is a framework of ideas and attitudes about the world and ourselves and life. So it has to do with the ideas and attitude. So once you perceive, it forms a certain idea in your head, and that generates a certain attitude, whether it's negative, whether it's positive, whether it's aggressive, or whether it's defensive. There's a different kind of attitude, and it depends on your worldview. Some cultures in the world, they are very passive about their reality, and they try to follow so-called destiny. So those people believe there is a certain destiny. And that when you believe you are destined by a certain power that you cannot control, then your perception and then your attitude becomes very passive, and you just don't have much energy to try to overcome. So that kind of brings a culture of very passive or even pessimistic. Pessimistic means thinking very negatively about the future. So that's kind of an attitude that might bring. But some cultures are very aggressive and optimistic because not because it is basically because they believe in the worldview that is rather aggressive and positive and optimistic. So it determines how you react to the reality. So throughout the history, human history, if you look at the history, there has been some group of people or ethnic groups or races who were very aggressive. And there are some people group, some races, some ethnic groups who are passive. And because of their worldview, they destined their own destiny. And some had great development as they exercised their worldview, while some did just sit down and repeated the history after history without having any development. So the worldview is very important for not only for the individuals, it's very important for a culture and a nation. And so that's another definition. And so it's a framework. And it is comprehensive system of beliefs with answers for a wide range of questions. That definition here. So it builds a system. There's a mental map and then framework. And then it eventually becomes a coherent, a congruent, one unified system. So it's a system of beliefs. And you believe in many different things. But these beliefs they should not conflict one another within the system. So when there is a system, your thoughts and your attitude, your interpretation of the world should not contradict one another. So that's the system of belief. And it comes with answers. So that's one of the key words in understanding the worldview. Because worldview tries to answer your questions. People, as we grow up, you have many important questions about the life, about the reality, and about your existence. And those are called ultimate questions. When you have an ultimate question or an ultimate questions about yourself and your life, we say that you are mature. And maturity comes when you find out those answers. So people sometimes invent their own answers. People sometimes borrow from others. So they kind of go with someone else's answers. And whatever they do, the worldview is providing answers. Unfortunately, many young people today, they just, stop pursuing these answers to the ultimate questions, and they want to go easy on the things. They want to go shallow on the things, which means their worldview is shallow. Their worldview is easy. Their worldview is kind of instant. And that creates many problems for the culture and for the society and for basically for the person himself or herself. So it is key for a person who to be mature. It is to have a solid belief system. It may not be the same as someone else's answers, but you should have a solid and definite answer to these very important questions in life. So again, according to the definitions, the worldview has to do with the world and the reality around you, and then it builds a mental map or a system of belief in your head and in your mind. Then it determines your course of actions, your behaviors, and your attitude. Then eventually, the answers given by your own worldview, that's how you base your decisions. So all your life decisions has to do with the worldview. So these are some of the elements of the definition regarding the worldview in general. And this is not about a Christian worldview yet, but it's about the worldview in general. And another definition to follow, the overall perspective from which one sees and interprets the world. So there are two things the worldview does. And first one is it sees it, it perceives. So you have to look at it first. Then once you perceive it, then you try to make some sense out of it. So that's interpretation. And as funny thing is, if you look at the one thing, 10 different people, and then there's going to be at least 10 different interpretations, even though they are looking at the same subject or same incident or same person, their perception are different. They see different. So you don't see everything. That's not possible because you're not God. We are not God. And unless you're God, you are not able to see everything that there to see. Some you miss something, or you look at it different. And the crime montage, the montage, the drawing of a person for the criminal purpose. And when you draw montage, you interview those witnesses, and no witnesses are the same. They all see the different thing. Some focus on their the look of eye, while some remembers the shape of lips better. Some just remember how tall that person was, and so from those examples, we understand people see things different, and the world and the reality we see quite different. Okay, and not only we see, we do make an interpretation. This interpretation is affected and influenced by many factors. And as you grow up, there are more factors that influences your perception and interpretation. So the worldview is basically how you interpret your perception and of reality into your own understanding. That's why it is important to know what your worldview basically is. Okay? Then another definition, a collection of belief about life and the universe held by an individual or a group. So worldview can come in the unit of an individual or a group. In this group might be your family, or it could be your tribe, or it could be your nation or community, society. And depending on the intensity of a community. So again, each individual, even within the same society and same group, even within the family, they may have a different worldview. Not may, but they do have a different worldviews. So basically the communication that we do, the talk or conversation or chat, these are the revealing of your own worldview. So as we speak, as we talk, as we share our emotions and our thoughts, we are revealing our worldview, because that's kind of sharing your interpretation about the things, the incidents, and the people around you. So that's basically what a worldview is. So worldview can be a really, really big, highly sophisticated topic, while the worldview is something is that of grassroots. So it's basic to anyone. There is no rich or poor regarding the worldview. Rich may have their own worldview, but poor, they do have different worldview. Which worldview is better? You cannot tell. because you're rich, you have a better worldview. No, that wouldn't be the case. The case would be everyone have their own their own rights, and they are entitled to their own worldview. However, the question is which worldview is the correct one? Which worldview is near to the truth? Which worldview better explains the whole existence and the reality? These are the questions as you try to evaluate different worldviews. Going back to the definition, so the worldview has to do with an individual or a group, and it's about a topic of life and universe. So the reality extends to even into the universe, moon and stars, and all that's beyond our imagination. And it is about life. Life meaning how you live, and then the life and death. So these are the key and core subject about the worldview. Okay, these are one of the examples how people, the scholars, the cultural anthropologist sees the worldview, what it is, what it does, what it is, and what it does. So in this case, it says worldview brings the lasting change to your values and your actions, and also to your behavior and your skills and thoughts. So that's how the worldview influences your life and your decisions and your making, who you are. Okay? So that's one drawing that kind of shows impact of worldview, what it does. Another picture or diagram, the worldview influences or impacts, or it brings changes to all these areas. So worldview is not only affecting the religion, but it affects the science and the time and your belief and society and all those things. So everything that a human does, that's affected by the worldview. That is why it is important to study worldview. And the way some people have no idea about these topics. Society, who cares about society? A belief, I don't believe in anything. You can say that, but that then only makes you a less person. So to be a better person, a more mature, a more whole person, we need to have the ideas and answers about those areas that we live in. So world, you cannot live without thinking about society, all the things going on in this world. So you hear a news and you are indifferent, meaning you don't care, indifferent about those news, the murder and the drug and even the coronavirus things. These are the things that are going on in modern society. There are issues of abortions, and there are issues of rich and poor, and there's issues of capitalism versus socialistic system. So these are all the issues that we are to be concerned with. And many young people today don't think much about those subjects. And that makes them a less person, which means the world becomes shallow and limited and less of what God had designed it to be. So it is kind of sad thing that the world is going. And it takes a lot of efforts and energy and the study to be able to have a balanced and holistic worldview. It doesn't have to be a Christian. I mean, I'm not trying to force you to believe in Christian worldview, but at least you gotta have your own system of worldview, and always ask a questions. Is this the best and the truthful worldview that I can acquire? Is it the best? That's gonna be always the question. Even as a Christian myself, I continually ask these questions. The things that I know, the way I interpret the life and the people and the society and the history, is this correct one? Is this the best one? So these are the questions that you constantly ask. So a good person, a mature person, and a good student of cultural anthropology, and a good student of life the life. You are actually the student of your own life. You study your life, right? And as you continue to study your own life, you want to ask, am I having the best and the right answers? It has to be right, and not all the right answers are good answers. There are good and better and best answers. So you again ask, is it just a good answer? Is this a better answer? Or is this the best answer? So best answer means you're having the best worldview that you can find. So that's going to be something that you pursue all throughout your life. So here are some examples of these worldviews. This is like a macro version of examples. There are some micro versions of examples as well, but we'll try to look at the macro, meaning the bigger picture. So the bigger picture says humanism, and these are like the way, whole way of thinking. Humanists, they share humanism. And there's something called Confucianism, which ruled over the Eastern Asia, Northeastern Asia for many generations, including Korea, China, some Japan, and even like Vietnam. They do have some ideas or ideals of Confucius worldview. And New Age has been there for many years, and nihilism also. I'll try to explain what the nihilism is. Okay, and then Judaism and Islam and Christianity. They pretty much share the common worldview, except some of the unique differences. So even though they share the Bible, the Old Testament, much of the Old Testament, they are different in interpretation and also application of those ideas. So let's look at one of the examples. We're not going to go into all these examples, but nihilism is the denial of the existence of any basis for knowledge or truth, which means nothing. There's nothing like a truth. So everything is kind of relative. Not only is relative, it doesn't have really meaning to it. So it's not worthy, or it does not have any value. So it's valueless. Life is valueless. Life doesn't have no implications. Life has no meanings. Life is just there, thrown into. So you're thrown into this world without any meaning. So if you believe in nihilism, it is easy for you to take your own life. So those many who committed suicide, many of them are nihilist, meaning they do not give a meaning to the life or truth or even any of the existence and reality. And also it gives the definition saying the general rejection of customary beliefs in morality, religion, and etc. So for this kind of worldview, the religion is all lies, and any customary belief or ethics, that's just humanly made to rule or oppress the humanity. That's how they interpret those regulations and religions. And it's the belief that there is no meaning or purpose in existence. So I told you that the worldview has to do with reality and human existence. In this case, the Webster's definition, nihilism, says there's no purpose on human existence, even the existence of the universe. So this is a kind of very negative worldview that you may sometimes face yourself. So as you try to live your own life, there comes a time that suddenly it seems there is no meaning to your own existence. It looks like no one cares for you anymore. Not even yourself cares about you. When that kind of sense comes to you, easily you're going to fall into the depression. But the worse than the depression is this nihilism, saying, I mean nothing. This body, this life, your family, the society, the ethics, saying that you should not kill yourself or take your own life. Those doesn't have any significance to you or implication to you. Then you can do whatever you want with your life. So this is one of the probably worst kind of worldview that you can have. Okay, let's have a very simple definition. The worldview, the working definition for us, the simple definition is the way or ways how a person or a group, it can be an individual or it can be a group of family, or it can be a group of community, a church, or whatever, that perceives and interprets. So perceives, your eyes, how you perceive, and interpret. It's done in your soul and mind and your spirit. So your soul and mind and spirit are your thoughts that interprets the reality that you perceive. So it's about the self, and it's about the reality, and it's about existence. So these three things, mainly the worldview has to do with these three areas or domains. So first, it's about yourself. So worldview dominates yourself in your life. So even though you may not realize that the fact of truth is that you are ruled by your own worldview, or you can control and develop and enhance and improve your worldview toward the better and the best, and the holistic and balanced and truthful at the end. So the final question is true or not. It cannot be partially true, because partially true is not true. So it has to be totally truth, total truth, and nothing but the truth. So that's kind of a worldview that we are pursuing. When we have that kind of worldview, you can be very proud of yourself. You will have a self-esteem, and you will be able to dominate and the surroundings, the reality and your existence. Because again, the definition says it's about the reality and it's about the existence. So your worldview, it dominates how you perceive your reality and also how you interpret your existence. Does it have a meaning? Are you here just thrown into, or are you given a certain mission, a worthy mission, a valuable mission to be here on earth? So that's the kind of question that you're asking, and that we should ask through the worldview. And once we have it, then we are living by that worldview, and that the worldview maintains us, and then we maintain our worldview. First, coherent belief system. There are three different words that explains what the worldview is and what the worldview does. Here, coherent belief system, it is what it is. I mean, what the worldview is. First, coherent. When you're little and young, your worldview is not settled, meaning that it's not like comprised as a one whole unit. So this worldview and that worldview, your worldview about your mother and father, and your worldview about the food, all these things are just mixed up. It doesn't have a consistent system. But as you grow and mature, these puzzles begins to come together, and this puzzles kind of makes a bigger picture, and you see a better and bigger picture. That's called maturity. And if it does not happen as you grow and you age, and that's an issue. And many people does not have coherent worldview. That's just piece by piece. You believe this stuff while you believe in that stuff, and this stuff and that stuff conflicts, and you don't just care. I mean, you don't want to think about it because it's problematic and it's complex and sophisticated. If you try to play a puzzle, have you tried a jigsaw puzzle? That's not an easy thing. I mean, not those big few pieces puzzle the children's play, but the 1,000 piece jigsaw puzzle. If you try to complete it, it takes the time and a lot of thinking. Same thing with a worldview. It's like a jigsaw puzzle, and it comes into a coherent system as you grow and mature. And it is your personal, individual responsibility to try to make out a good, coherent meaning it comes together as a one unit. So it should not have conflicts, and it should not contradict one another, and it should explain each other with harmony. If it doesn't do that, and your worldview is broken one. And if you have a broken worldview, you may have a broken life view as well. So it is very important to have a very coherent system. So it's a belief. Belief is, as we define, it's a perception of the reality. It's not reality itself. Reality is there, but your perception may. It's not always that you're not seeing the reality as it is. So each person sees reality, and they have developed a certain belief about it. So some believe that reality, for example, nature came as the result of evolution from a single tiny amino acid, which just happened by an accident, and then that kind of by accident becomes a rather complex protein, and then that lifeless protein, which actually the virus is, that somehow becomes rather developed bacteria and one cell, animal and plants, and then so on. So that's the way some people interpret the nature, the so-called the reality called the nature. And the Christians believe no, that's not the case. This nature is given to us by somebody, for a reason. So that's how we believe. It's created. So we call the Christians call as creature rather than nature. Nature is not really a Christian word if you technically study it. Anyway, so that's an example of belief. And then system. System should be organized and is closely connected. It's not, once you take apart the machine, for example, you drive a car every day, and if you lift up your hood, there's an engine. Engine is a system. But if you take apart those engines, there's cylinders and cylinder rings, and the piston, and spark plugs, and these things. If you take that apart, it's not connected, and it's no longer a system. Same thing with a worldview. A good worldview, a working worldview, has to be connected closely, and it should work and operate. So it should function. So a good worldview, it means it's a coherent system. And next one. To understand a worldview, what it is. A worldview is a rationalized answers. It's an answer. Answer meaning you have questions, right? We do have questions as we grow, and even at my age, and we still have questions about life, about things that's going on. You don't know why the animal virus moved to a human and then jump human to human to bring infections and illness. And why does it spread in such a speed? And why do we have to be bound at home because of this little tiny, even invisible, with the naked eyes thing? So that's kind of question that we still ask. And why the earthquakes? Why the tornadoes? These are some of the questions people might ask. And why do we grow old? And why do we have to die? So these are the questions, and these questions must have answers. If you don't have answers to these questions, not only is puzzling, it's confusing, and the thing is, it hurts you, it troubles you. So you need to find answers. These answers has to be explanatory, meaning it should explain in detail. I mean, your question should be answered in explanatory manner. It's not just given with a one short answer, but it has to have certain explanation to it. And it has to be reasonable. At least it has to be reasonable to you. It may not be reasonable to others, but when you hear that answer, it has to be reasonable. For example, the Christian believe that death is caused by our own sin. So, why do we sin? That's another question. The answer is because we are so proud. We try to become God who created us. We become so proud. So these are kind of answers, and that, for me, is reasonable. It makes sense, and it's rational. And then it has to be meaningful. Meaningful meaning, it has to give you a sense of meaning, the value. So those answers has to give you the value. If these answers take a value out of you, and if it makes you worthless, and if these answers makes you just at the same level to the animals, then these answers are not meaningful. So some of those evolutionistic answers, I mean, we are developed from just tiny cell, or at the best from a monkey to a human being. These put us into the level of monkeys. We are just smarter than monkeys. We are just smarter and be able to use and develop tools. That's only the difference. If that's the case, there's no meaning. I mean, we are degraded. The human generation is degraded to the level of those chimpanzees or gorillas. So that's not really meaningful. So the answers has to give some meaning or value to your existence. Okay, again, going back to the rationalized. These answers are always rationalized, meaning it has to develop a theory, the reasoning, so it would be proper for you to accept, and you should be able to persuade others to these answers. And when you hear some of these answers called worldview, you may not like it, and some of you may not readily accept it, but because of those reasons, it has to be rationalized. It's persuasive. When you hear it, it constantly tells you this is the right answer. This is the good answer. This is the best way to view the reality and your existence. And it constantly tells you. And by hearing them, and then it's going to be rationalized. Even the Christian worldview, you're being rationalized. But the matter of the issue is whether is it true or not. So some of the worldviews cannot be true because the Christianity claims this is the only worldview that is truthful and God-given. So it kind of gives you the authority of that worldview. So Christian worldview is the best and dominant. That's how we Christians believe. And non-Christian, if you're not a Christian, you don't believe in it. And so there is that gap and conflict sometimes. But for the group of people who are sharing the same worldview, they rationalize their belief and they become more of, I would say, one rationalized group of people. And because it's rationalized, this worldview that you share as a community, it gives a sense of security. So if you're in it and everyone shares the same answers, and you talk to them and ask for the answers, and every single one of them gives the same answers. Once that happens, that rationalized answers give you the sense of security. That's why we have a worldview. Without a worldview, you're not going to have that sense of security. For those people who are feeling insecure, many of the cases, they do not have a congruent or solid worldview. Their worldview is shattered or broken, or it's not integrated, and it has never been rationalized. So rationalizing is a bad process in some sense, but it is a good process in other aspects. And these rationalized answers, like I said, it has to be persuasive, and it does convince others. So once you hear those answers from others, as you ask the questions, the life questions, important questions, the key questions, then they give you answers, whether it's through the book or through the movie or through your parents' conversation or your teachers or your pastor or your imam, whoever gives those answers, and you evaluate and you respond and you rationalize those answers and accept those answers as yours. And once that happens, it becomes your worldview, or not someone else's. So the rationalizing process, it makes the answers of others, their worldview, to my worldview. So it is very important and key process to have rationalized answers, and that presents your worldview. Okay. Next one is integrated paradigm. There are two things that we need to think about for this term. One's integrated, and the other one is paradigm. We'll talk about this paradigm very often as we continue to discuss this topic of worldview. And paradigm is like a house. If you've been to some different countries and cultures, each culture have a different types or the style of house. So why is a house different? Because they have different paradigms. And paradigms, sometimes it has to do with the nature. If you're in Southeastern Asia, like Thailand, Vietnam, Cambodia, your house is made out of bamboo and those straws, and it's easily available. It's also solid enough. And but if you live in the Northern Europe, you have those brick houses or solid stone houses with a sharp roof, because they are much snow. So these are like a paradigms. The paradigms are different because you live in a different reality, different context, different geographical region. So where you live, what your reality is, it kind of determines your paradigm, whether it's a house or a culture or something else. And the paradigm is built by piecing together those puzzle pieces, jigsaw puzzle pieces. So paradigm sometimes is people use the term just same as worldview. Paradigm and worldview, they think it's pretty much the same. So it's not like exactly same, but it's pretty much similar. So paradigm and worldview can be used exchangeably, but I kind of differentiate. And it's a solid and unique, just like a worldview is. So paradigm is a very key component and the element of a worldview. I can say that. Integrated. A paradigm, by nature, by definition, it has to be integrated. And paradigm brings all different reality and the cultural pieces, the history and the people, society, all these things together into one system, just as worldview is. So it is one system. Cannot be two different paradigms in one culture. When that happens, there is a conflict. But most the nations, the democratic nations in the world, they have probably 2 or 3 different paradigms. In America, there are many more different paradigms that present together and try to build a harmony out of it. That's why it is difficult. And some nations in the world, they have only one paradigm that's ruled by government or one leader. And when that happens, there's no conflict. But there are some other issues rather than a conflict. So that's an example of paradigm. A government is an example of a paradigm, the system, government system, political system. And it has to be consistent. If paradigm shifts every other day, then you are confused. And some of the leaders today, regarding this coronavirus, they changed the word from morning to evening, yesterday to today. So people are confused. And that's not just the only change of thoughts, it has to do with their paradigm, because their paradigm is not coherent, it's not solid, it fluctuates. There's a good thing called paradigm shift, but if paradigm shift happens every other day, then we are in trouble. Also, finally, it has to be holistic. Holistic means it has to cover all and every subject that our human being has to interact with. It's about reality, whole reality, and it's about whole existence. We're not talking about just a religious existence or just spiritual reality. We include spiritual, mental, and physical reality and all the existence. Money, whether it's marriage, whether it's the childbearing or raising children, it's all included. That's included in the paradigm of existence. So it has to be holistic. We'll talk about that holistic further in the coming lessons. Okay? Thank you for listening and thank you for watching. And I'll come back next week. And until then, please review these lessons and I'll try to give some quiz on the subject that we have covered today. So there are going to be 10 question quiz next given next week, and it's not for the grading primarily, but it's there to help you to review and understand the topic. Thank you and bye. God bless.